What's up guys, this is Akash and welcome to Spark tutorial series. For the purpose of this tutorial, we are going to be using Python 2.7. So I assume that you all have Python 2.7 installed on your computer. If you don't, then just go to the Python website and download and install it, which is pretty easy. Along with that, we are going to be using Jupyter Notebook, which I'm going to show you how to install in a moment. And in this tutorial, we are going to explore how to install Spark 2.0.1. If you are a Windows user, I'm sorry, I cannot really do an introductory tutorial on how to install Spark on Windows as I do not have a Windows operating system. However, as long as you have Spark installed on your computer, you should be able to follow along the tutorial series easily. So first let us install Jupyter Notebook. To install Jupyter Notebook, we are just going to go to the terminal and type pip install notebook. Now I already have Jupyter Notebook installed on my computer, so I'm just going to type upgrade, yeah, there we go. And that should install Jupyter Notebook for you. And if you just, to verify that if Jupyter Notebook is installed or not, you can just type in ipython, and if you get a shell like this, that means Jupyter Notebook has been installed on your computer. So now let's move on to install Spark. So to install Spark, we are going to be visiting Spark's website, which is spark.apache.org, and you should be able to see a download Spark link on the right hand side. We are going to be downloading 2.0.1, which is the latest distribution of the Spark, and let's download. Okay, I'm going to save it. Alright, so the download has completed and now we are going to install Spark. So let's navigate to downloads directory, and you can see that Spark tar file has been downloaded. To install tar files, what we are going to type in is tar xvf, the file name, and this should extract the file content. And now we can see that we have a nice little directory where the file content has been extracted. Now the directory name is pretty big and you are often going to be navigating to this directory. So we are going to rename the directory to Spark. One of the way to do that is just move the content of the directory to another directory, and now we can see that it has been renamed into Spark. Now we are going to move this directory into user local directory. That's where I generally tend to keep all my open source software, and I recommend that you should keep your open source software down there as well. Oops, yeah, we forgot the file name, directory name, which you want to move. So move Spark user local, and this should work. Yeah. So to check if the Spark has installed or not, what you basically do is navigate to user local directory, and you can see that we have a Spark directory down there. And what we are going to do is we are going to navigate to the Spark directory, and then we are going to type in bin spark shell, and it should start up some process which is going to initiate the Spark shell. If this process is not starting, that means your Spark has not installed and you need to install it properly. Alright, so you can see that Spark shell has started, and don't worry about this being in Scala because we are not going to be using Scala for this tutorial. So what you can do is just press Ctrl C to exit out of it, and you're out. And we are just going to be navigating to your default directory. Now remember how I told you that we'll be using Jupyter Notebooks for the purpose of this tutorial series. So why are we using Jupyter Notebook? Well, because Jupyter Notebook is going to act as an interactive shell to execute Spark. Now what does that mean? Remember, if you install Python, what you can do is that with Python's IDLE interactive shell, you can type in some statement and then it can execute it right down there, and then you can see the result like statement by statement. It turns out that you can do same with Spark as well, PySpark. So we are going to be linking our Jupyter notebook with the PySpark shell so that you can use this interactive facility. And it turns out that Jupyter notebook has some more additional features and functionalities as well, which we'll be exploring during our future tutorials. So let's link up our Jupyter notebook and PySpark shell. To do that, we are going to open up our bash rc profile. Now, one of the reasons that we really want to link up properly or even configure the variable is that we don't really want to navigate every single time to user local directory and then to Spark and then start our Spark shell as per our needs or execute a Spark program from there. So what we want to do is we want to create environmental variable so that system can recognize that, hey, I have Spark installed and I can execute Spark command. And to make system aware that it has Spark installed, we need to edit bash profile. Now, if you are a Ubuntu user, you would be generally typing a command like sudo gedit.bash profile. Gedit is a text editor choice. Now it's up to you. You can also do sudo vi dot bash rc. I'm sorry, I said bash profile, but it's bash rc for the Linux users, and you should see a file like this pop up. And if Mac user you don't have bash profile file created, then what you could do is you could say touch dot bash underscore profile, or after cding, meaning moving into your home directory, and make sure to create a bash profile file. Once your bash profile file created, you can copy paste these commands that these paths that I'm going to be putting in the description below, and you could just save it. Now don't worry about what this path means. If you want, I can make another tutorial series where I explain what each and every single path means, but basically now we have linked up our PySpark shell to Jupyter notebook. Now to bring our changes, we just made changes to the bash profile file. To bring those changes into effect, we are going to say source bash profile. This is going to bring up all the changes into effect immediately, which you made in the previously in the file. For Ubuntu user, you should do source bash rc, which is going to bring up your changes into effect. And there we go. Now you should be able to type in just PySpark and it should be able to initiate a Jupyter notebook like this one, and then you can open up a Jupyter notebook session, which we just did, and just type in rdd is equal to sc.parallelize a list of numbers 2 3 4. Now don't worry about if you don't really understand this code, because that's the purpose of this tutorial and we are going to be exploring about this in the future. So just copy paste this code and check if this thing works. If this thing works, that means your Jupyter notebook has been linked to PySpark and you could execute Spark code interactively. Print rdd.take file and let's see if it executes. Oops, I forgot a print statement here, which you need to keep over here. Yeah, so now you can see that the variable type is of rdd and this is a list which is inside the rdd. Well, this is an rdd, it's not a list anymore. So this was it for this tutorial and see you in the next tutorial. Thank you.